They look up and see me playing with the most expensive music equipment, and they're like, how on earth, with this job, I'm able to afford to buy $10,000 keyboards? The lifestyle that it looks like I live, it looks like I'm a full-time musician, but people don't know I'm in the truck transporting for a whole week. But I'm fueling my passion for people, John.
There you go.
Welcome to Six Figure Trucker, the podcast where we share advice on how to be successful in trucking and have fun while doing so. We'll share stories, news, and advice on how to earn six figures in trucking, and we'll speak to guys and gals that are already doing so. Let's get to the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. This is a venue where we elevate and celebrate the drivers that make the wheels go round and, of course, contribute so much to the economy of our country and even Canada for that matter. And we are very honored to have each and every guest that we have on here every week. And tonight, joining us, we have a special guest, Patrick Daniels. Patrick, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great, John. How about yourself, brother?
I can't complain. I mean, you know, it reminds me of a gentleman. I was in a gym about, it's probably 15 years ago, and a gentleman, he was probably about 80 years old. I was walking by, and he said, how you doing? I said, I can't complain. He said, let me tell you something, young man. He said, half the people say you probably had it coming, and the other half say, I don't care. So there you have it about complaining. So tell us how you are. Are you off today?
Oh, yeah. I took the week off, actually, this week. Yep. I'm in Atlanta hanging out. I'm in the studio with the fish tanks.
I got you. I got a studio with it. Very nice. Wanted to ask you a couple questions. I was looking at your load board before we got rocking here, and it looks like you're headed north your next couple of runs.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to Canada twice next week.
Okay. Taking a couple of buses up there. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. Honestly, man, you know, I talk to my dispatchers all the time, you know, Holly, Jessica, Sierra, you know, and Lo, and it doesn't matter to me where they send me, honestly. You know, I enjoy getting back to Atlanta on the weekends. I'm a musician, and, you know, it's fun to get back home and stuff. I didn't even know it was possible, actually, to get home every weekend. They've been getting me home every weekend since I've started. We're
gonna circle back and dive deeper into this musician thing you had mentioned there. But have you been up to Canada much? I mean, have you made that trek very much?
Never. Closest I've ever been in my life is Taylor, Michigan, and that was with another company. I used to drive for CFI. My wife and I, we got our CDLs together, and we used to team drive together for 2 years.
Gotcha. What was that like, team driving?
Oh, it was a big joy. You know, we weren't married yet, and it helped us really get to know each other under those types of circumstances. And we learned that we had what it took to, you know, to be cut out for the communication that is desired or a necessity in a, you know, the biggest business you can be involved in, which is marriage, you know?
Absolutely. Now, you were talking about the communication. How, between you and your wife, was it a chance to kind of fine tune your communication skills?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I'm a Christian man, you know what I mean? And, you know, most people don't like to really get on that subject matter because they feel like it's too deep and all those types of things. But as humans, we're attracted to people, and it's human nature to be attracted to people. So, you know, we did things like the old school, super old school, and, you know, didn't engage in like premarital relations or anything like that, because I realized at a young age that once you involve intimacy, logic kind of doesn't really develop, you know what I mean? Because all you do is think about the physicality of things, because, you know, human nature feels good to human nature. But, you know, we didn't do any of those things in the early stages of our relationship. So we were able to really, really, really develop, you know, the basics for communication and talking about those tough things, you know, because it wasn't like, oh my God, like I'm not going to be able to be, you know, enjoying those other aspects, because we marked them off out of bounds, you know, from the get-go. So we could really, really develop that communication.
Now, be honest here. Which one of you is the better communicator?
We both are really great in different aspects. You know, like I'm really good about talking about, I mean, That's a really good question. And it's a tough one. It's a really tough one to answer. I would say we're really great at communicating about certain things. I'm the spender. So I suck when it comes to, I don't want to communicate about stuff like taxes and, and like, my wife is a writer. So, when it comes to like writing things and stuff like that, she's like telling me to write it down and I'm like trying to just talk about it. My method of communication is talking. Hers is writing. So I pressure her to talk more and she pressures me to write more. And I don't want to do what she wants me to do and she don't want to do what I want her to do.
But you find a happy median.
Oh yeah, we definitely grow for sure.
Now, how much, that communication you have between each other, how much does that help you on the job as far as dealing with whether it be dispatchers or customers or anything out on the road, anything like that, having those fine-tuned communication skills, I'm sure that helps you a lot.
Totally, because, I hear conversations I know other drivers. I've met other drivers that work for Norton from different stops. It's a different kind of ball game because, with the hiring process, you don't necessarily walk into a classroom with 50 people and you swap numbers and now you can kind of like call people. You have to learn how to take advantage of every communication opportunity. So I would say for me, it works extremely well.
You were talking some great stuff there about kind of a little philosophical, looking a little bit on things as far as you kind of get what you give and you give what you get. But obviously that's worked well for you in your personal life and your professional life.
Oh, most definitely. I'm sponsored by one of the number one keyboard synthesizer company in the world. Used to sponsor people like Herbie Hancock, Chick Corea, Robert Glasper, Keith Emerson, Sun Ra, Stevie Wonder, you know what I mean? And all of my relationship with them grew, number one, from being a customer first, number two, from treating customer service like quality people. And what I mean by quality people is treating people like Quick Trip, Publix, and Chick-fil-A. That's what I define as treating people like quality. Everything is your pleasure. And believe it or not, I actually bumped into my A&R's father at a restaurant in South Georgia while I was in a rental car on a Norton load, deadheading from Orlando, Florida, back home to Georgia. And believe it or not, in a random restaurant while doing my job, I met somebody that is the father of my artist relations manager.
Now, that is a small world, or you could divine intervention, however you want to look at it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, we want to dive into your personal musical profession, your career, your other career, but I wanted to kind of backdoor that in the sense that music is something that's big in your family. And you've got some people, as you and I talked about previously before we got on the air here, that you've got some people that have some pretty deep-rooted connections.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell us about it.
Well, my mother, Beth Daniels, she was a violinist in the Duke Ellington Orchestra.
Oh, wow.
My grandmother was a keyboardist and organist at our church. My cousin Billy is a saxophonist and drummer in the Motown band Ozone. My first cousin, Freddie Sawyers, has been Isaac Hayes' background singer his entire career up until the time that he passed away. I mean, I've interned. I've been an audio engineer and at the Artist Factory studio, and which is really funny because I used to intern under Isaac Hayes III, and I got an opportunity one day to talk to Isaac Hayes III about how my cousin was your father's background singer, which is like super hilarious to have that conversation.
Absolutely.
With him. You walk indoors as an intern, and most people don't. I don't know if people don't understand, but like intern in a recording studio business is not like you're sitting at the board sliding any faders or mixing any mid, low, high end frequencies or anything like that. This is like I'm mopping the bathroom, taking out the trash and picking up the guests to bring them to the studio. But like while I'm doing all of this, like the way you do this job is you do this job. You don't tell anybody that like you're already in this industry. It's like the humble place.
Right.
It's like doing Norton Transport without a CDL and not letting anybody know that you have a CDL to get like higher paying loads. It's just like being humble and being respectful and, you know, bringing air freshener and spraying air freshener. And, you know, you don't let anybody know you know anybody. That's how it kind of works.
Well, humility is a wonderful teacher.
Amen.
Now, coming from such a rich bloodline of musicians, how has that propelled you into where you are now?
Well, the thing is that, you know, John, a lot of people that are musicians, or a lot of people that, you know, want that lifestyle and want to express themselves creatively for the rest of their life. They constantly chase the dream, and they don't really give their elders faith and belief in knowing that they're going to be okay. Your family worries about you when you want to do this type of job because, you know, most people, they appear as though they never make it, or the history is that people have gotten like hooked on drugs and, you know, befriended addictions. And the reason why a lot of people have gone down that path is because it's not easy. But the thing about it is the only reason why it's not easy for these people is because a lot of people often forget that you have to live and you have to survive while these things are going on. And so, you know, I was on a band scholarship at Southern University. I played tuba my whole life. I marched in the band. I came through marching band maybe 3 to 5 years prior to the drumline craze. When I was in band, that's when people were making fun of us. American Pie. This one time at band camp jokes. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But now every kid in the world wants to do it. And,
oh, yeah.
You know, so during the off band season, I was hurling packages at FedEx, making $10 an hour in 2001, 2002, 2003. I graduated high school in 2006, but I transferred FedEx over to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I marched in the band under a band scholarship that I actually got through a YouTube video. So my parents couldn't afford to drive me to Louisiana for a live audition. And my freshman craft name was YouTube, because the way I solved the problem of not being able to get there was in 2004. In 2005, when YouTube came out, they were actually a dating site. But what happened was people started putting goofy videos out, and they decided to just go with it. And so they embraced it. And I was able to see YouTube as a plan-solving plan for how I could call the band director, ask them what the audition requirements were, get a friend of mine from South Georgia with a video camera to film me, and email the video to the band director. And the band director responded with a partial scholarship offer in the mail. So now I drove there with a scholarship. And during the off season, I was at FedEx working. So I worked at FedEx and graduated from college, and then transferred FedEx back to Georgia. Realized I couldn't make enough money doing that, and I pivoted it into what we talked about previously, was the team driving experience, where my wife and I went to CFI in Missouri and got our licenses together. And, you know, that's how the truck infuses with the music, is that I have incredible flexibility with trucking to make a living that most people don't even think about trying to do. But, you know, they look up and see me playing with the most expensive music equipment, and they're like, how on earth, you know, do you do that? I mean, the lifestyle that it looks like I live, it looks like I'm a full-time musician, and it looks like I've made it, but people don't know I'm in the truck transporting for a whole week, and then I'm able to honestly, really, I'm driving really hard right now because I'm getting a stellar deal on pretty much the same keyboard that Hans Zimmer. Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, like, the company I work with sponsors people like Hans Zimmer that makes, like, you know, the score for like everything you've watched, from like Dark Knight to you name it. But wow. He's a Moog synthesizer guy. You know what I mean? And with this job, I'm able to afford to make plans to buy $10,000 keyboards and still be able to take care of my finances and living expenses.
That's got to be a great feeling to be, you know, doing one thing to fuel your passion, no pun intended, and to be able to
with diesel.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm fueling my passion with diesel, John.
There you go. If we're not burning, we're not earning. But yeah, you were talking about earlier there. I wanted to kind of circle back to talking about how a lot of people had struggled in the music business, sometimes turning to drugs or whatever the case may be, because it's not as easy as they thought it would be. Because if it were easy, everybody would do it. But a lot of people like to have musical talent or music ability to express themselves musically. But for you, how long have you been doing it?
All of my entire life. I mean, the family started it. I was 4 years old, and I used to beat on the car in my mother's car, and she had leather seats, and I used to. The upholstery was, coming loose in the car because songs would come on, and I'd beat on them with whatever I had in my hands, with a pencil in my pocket, or just my hands. I would drum I'd drum on the upholstery, and I kept tearing up the upholstery. And what happened is at about 4 years old, my dad and my mother put me into private drum lessons. And, unfortunately, when I was 4 years old, my parents, they went separate directions, but they remain really good friends. They're still super cool. My dad was my best man in my wedding, almost 2 years ago and stuff like that. But they put me in private drum lessons. And so I was playing drums when I was 4 years old. By the time I got into elementary school, fourth, fifth grade, I was in chorus. So I, started off drumming, then learned how to, train vocals and sing along with songs and read music singing. I was in the chorus. I remember Mr. Gardner took us out to, New York, and got a chance to witness the legendary Harlem Boys Choir.
Oh, wow.
Fourth, fifth grade, sixth grade, I started playing trumpet. Seventh grade, I started playing baritone. Then in my seventh grade year, a lady by the name of Arnisa Woods, who was the band director at the time at Samuel Inman Middle School, that's located in the Virginia Highlands in Atlanta, Georgia, which is, interestingly enough, we were rivals with the middle school, Sutton Middle School, which Andre 3000 from Outkast went to Sutton Middle School.
Oh, wow.
So I started seeing all these like parallels in history, which is even interesting. Fast forward, I kind of discovered that like Tyler, the Creator, actually also worked at like FedEx or something for like a day. So there's just really interesting parallels by how different musical people now. But anyway, long story short, Miss Woods switched me on the tuba my seventh grade spring. She sat me in her office away, separated me from the class, put me on a Standard of Excellence book and on a CD-ROM. I spent the whole semester in her office by myself learning how to play tuba. And once I got good enough to do that, she brought me back into the classroom with the rest of the class. And funny enough, in middle school, I would play in class, and also I would go down to the neighboring Henry W. Grady High School and play tuba. So I would play tuba during the daytime with the middle school, but I would march in the football games with the high school, Henry W. Grady, which you might not know what you know about Henry W. Grady, but Henry W. Grady High School is the same gymnasium from Remember the Titans when they integrated the football team. That gym that they're sitting in, that's Henry W. Grady High School.
That's a famous one.
I marched there in middle school, and then my brother was attending UT Chattanooga College for seminary, and I went to go spend the summer with my brother. And in that summer, my mother asked me, do you want to go to Grady or do you want to go to North Springs High School? So I decided to go to North Springs High School. It was more diverse in North Springs. And so I went up there to North Springs, and honestly, the majority of our music was kind of foreign stuff to me. I didn't really grow up watching Star Wars. I didn't really grow up listening to things like Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas,
right.
I didn't know anything about Vehicle by, I think, Joe Tex, and I didn't know a lot about like things like 25 to 6 to 4 by Chicago,
right.
And Saturday in the Park by Chicago. I didn't know any the classic rock hits. I didn't know about that.
Now, as a musician, some of those titles you named off there, are, considered great musical contributions to the greater atmosphere of music there because Chicago, Kansas. How do you look at those bodies of work from those two bands?
I look at them with great appreciation now, but then I didn't look at them that way. I didn't realize, playing grade level 6, John Williams, orchestral arrangements on tuba were going to have that much of a pivotal experience on me. I mean, like, think about it now. Like, now I'm sponsored by a company that uses their instrumentation to make big Batman films. And I never knew that now, with me pivoting from making the type of music I'm making to making film scores, that these things will mean as much as they mean to me now. You know,
Right.
I had no clue. I completely appreciate it now. I love it. I'm like, I'm so glad I made this decision. I used to say, hey, Mom, like, I'm thankful that you made me go to North Springs High School. And she's like, son, you realize you made that decision, right? I didn't make you go there. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. But I mean, North Springs was even awesome. I didn't even know that. Like, Usher went to North Springs. Raven Simone went to North Springs. I played on the same basketball team with Matt Martians, which I just found out the other day. My best friend, one of my best friends, Ayanna Brown, she gave Matt Martians like his name. This is a California music collective that was called Odd Future, which used to house Tyler the Creator, Frank Ocean, Sid. All of these people are very Frank Ocean's looked at as being like the next closest songwriter, like Stevie Wonder, like today. It's a huge artist.
Speaking of, what is your? I mean, you had stated earlier you're a Christian and it's important to you, your faith. Does that bleed over into the type of music you play?
Okay.
Okay, yeah. What kind of music do you play?
I make every genre that you can ever imagine, but I make sure anything I make is something that a kid could listen to without it sounding like kiddie music. You know, I don't curse on my music. I don't, but at the same time, if you think about individuals like, I can't remember which 12th disciple out of the 12 disciples it was. I think it might have been Matthew. I know for a fact that Peter was the fisherman, but I mean, there's a story in the Bible about Peter and another one of the disciples on the boat with Jesus tripping. They were just tripping about how, the storm was coming and all of this stuff. And Jesus was taking a nap and there was a big old storm on the boat. Mm-hmm. And Jesus said, peace be still, and the storm stopped. And it's a story about your calmness and your peace being held within Christ and not tripping in the midst of any situation in life. And so if we use Peter as an example, we're talking about a person that shows their emotions in a moment, is undesired. And so I just use that example to say that, like, I'm striving to show peace in any situation. When I got stuck in like Maryville, Ohio for a minute, it took 2 hours to catch an Uber ride out of there. I know this is not an example of like how I'm creating like Christian friendly music and what my style of music it was pretty much your question. But I mean, Chick Corea says his thing is like, play life. Let your music be life. Like when you get on the keyboard, play life. And so what I'm saying is that in order to answer this question, is basically what I'm saying is like, hey, I'm playing music. I'm playing music right now. I'm making music right now on the phone with you by not, cursing my behind off and realizing that this recording will outlive both of us.
You touched on something there about some of the biblical principles that you were talking about from the story there. And you touched on when you were stuck in Maryville, Ohio. But let's talk about other situations on the road. I would think that having that outlook, that mindset, obviously puts you in a good position. No matter, because, let's be real, there's going to be some curveballs that come your way in the trucking industry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Tell us about how you've been able to adjust to those with that mindset that you have.
I feel like it's all about realizing every portion of your life is a potential recording. You know what I mean? Anything you do in the dark or in the light, I guess for the sake of the analogy, everything that you do in the dark will show in the light. It'll come to the light, So, Man, I had the longest truck I've ever driven in my life. I wish I measured it. My wife did a video recording of it as I was getting into the vehicle. And there's another driver. There's a couple of drivers out there I know. There's a lady named Tracy. There's a guy named Derek. And I've spent them clips of this truck. We've all seen them. You've all seen when you're driving on the road, you've seen one of these truck transporter tractors. It's a tractor with a double decker transport trailer for trucks, for vehicles, excuse me, for Carvana or you name it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we've seen one of those on a truck. But I bet that most people have never seen a truck with one of those attached to another trailer that does the same thing.
Wow. So how long are we talking here? I mean, just an estimation.
Man, I would guess like 100 feet.
And you drove this?
Yeah, from Gainesville, Georgia to I want to say it was to somewhere in Ohio. It was the load before the load. It was the load. Actually, it was the Maryville, Ohio load. It was the Maryville, Ohio load because my next load was in Chillicothe, Ohio, and I had to deadhead from Maryville, Ohio to Chillicothe to pick up my next load. So that load dropped in Maryville, and it's long. It's big, long vehicle, and I went up a road and I made a right turn. I swung it hard left so that I could clear the whole turn. Everybody knows, for the most part, that, if you got a long vehicle, you got to swing it wider. It's going to cut everything off on that corner if you're going to the right.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm swinging it wide to go right. And as soon as I get to the middle of the intersection,
here comes a car.
The middle of the intersection inclines in altitude, and I get stuck.
Oh, boy.
And I'm stuck on the hill for about an hour in time. And, I don't want to cost the company any money. I don't want to spend any of my money on getting it out of there. And I'm 5 minutes away from the delivery, by the way, when this happens.
Oh, my.
And I mean, I'm not sure why God designed that situation right there. But to be honest with you, man, the gentlemen were so nice. They pulled up on me in their F-250 and ran some chains to the back trailer to their truck, and they snatched me out of that situation in under 10 minutes. The only thing that happened was a little bit of the paint on the underskirt of that trailer came off. The sheriff pulled up and they escorted me down the street. I didn't get a ticket, nothing like that happened. The sheriff was super nice. They led me down the road. It was the best road. They threw the peace on, told me good luck, have a great one. You know what I mean? We got to the receiver. They signed for the trailer, no issues, no nothing, and
that sounds like it was good all the way around.
It is, but if you don't have peace, it's so easy for you in a moment to just lose your cool and you know what I mean? There's just people out there. I pray that they come to terms with peace and really just realize that you can just keep peace in all situations. And then when the situation is over, which all situations in our life, if you're thinking about it, they've all ended. They're all over. So why not just create a memory of yourself that you'll be happy about if you know that every moment is eventually going to end?
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue what was going to happen in that moment. I didn't know if I was going to have to come out the pocket $250 for a tow truck. You know what I mean? I didn't know if I was going to have to come out of the pocket for a ticket with a sheriff or anything like that. But I decided peace in the beginning. I decided peace. And that's what it's all about. It's all about deciding peace in whatever moment you're in. Decide peace so that you treat your dispatchers respectfully. Everybody's going to remember who you were and how you were.
You were talking about creating a memory in the moment. Give us some of the, let's say, top 3 memories you've created on the open road as a driveway transporter.
Top 3?
Yeah, even if the one you just described is one of them. I mean, would that be in your top 3?
Most definitely, because it was kind of an undesired introduction with a very cool conclusion or outcome. But the introduction wasn't something that I would have wanted to happen like at all.
But you never know where the road will take you, and it turned into you met some great humans, some cool people, and they were there to help you out, and that worked out well. But kind of paint the picture for us of a couple of other memories you've created on the road.
I definitely got to say that one where I met my the artist relations manager of Moog Synthesizers. I met her father while I was driving a rental car, like I told earlier, from Orlando, Florida, dead heading back home to Atlanta, Georgia. I stopped at a restaurant called Fish Dock, and I want to say it was like Jasper, Georgia or something. I got there at about 10:30, and the reason why I stopped there is because my father frequents at a restaurant here in Atlanta, Georgia called Papa Dough every Tuesday and Friday. All of my family's from the coast.
I got you.
And we look like raw oysters and raw clams, and I couldn't be in Atlanta with my father to have that quality time with seafood. My grandfather was a merchant seaman, so he lived on the water. So, I went out there and I go in there and I sit down and I, get my Coke to drink and stuff like that. And I'm walking out to a dock that's just amazingly beautiful. The owner farms his own shrimp, and basically, without saying a lot, he farms the entire menu from the body of water right there on the dock.
That's as fresh as he can get.
Yeah, and if you fish, he'll cook it for you.
That's awesome.
How about that?
That's awesome. Now, I'm guessing when you met this person from Moog, that you guys talked I'm sure you chatted for a moment.
Man, this was the father of my artist relations manager. We all know that even when you love somebody and you want to meet somebody, the one person you want the stamp of approval from is the father.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't meet anybody, you want to meet the father. Now, this is somebody that's engaging in business relationship with me, and they haven't really they don't really know me. They know me by my work. They haven't gotten a chance to know me as a person. So I'm sitting down having a dozen raw oysters with a gentleman that I don't think I know from Adam's apple. You know what I mean? And before you know it, we've had so much fun that the guy won't let me pay for my food. He's taking my tab before I can even notice it. And then before you know it, I'm telling him about my life, and I'm telling him that, man, I've really been spending my time just doing this Norton Transport thing, and I'm really falling in love with synthesizers, and I'm learning them. And man, I just got sponsored by this amazing company named Moog. I don't know if you know about him. And he's like, do you know, my daughter works there. And while we're saying that, we literally say his daughter's name. He's a tall gentleman with cold blue eyes, and his daughter is a tall lady with cold blue eyes. And I knew it couldn't be anybody else.
That is some kind of connection right there.
Yes, 600, 700 miles away. It sure was, John.
You're listening to The Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Patrick Daniels telling us some great stories out on the road, in the studio, life in general. Patrick, you've been sharing some great memories with us. Where do you see, you talked a lot about how these go hand in hand, driving Driveaway for Norton Transport, and that's able to, as we said earlier, fuel your passion behind the keys there. How long do you see yourself behind the wheel?
That's a great question. I don't really know, as long as God just keeps providing me with opportunities and I'm able to continue to keep my health in a good place. And, I'm not sure, I'm here to do it as long as God wants me to do it. I'm not trying to impose my will on my own life, because I have desires and directions I want to go, but sometimes God wants you to do other things or whatever, driving wasn't my dream job, I'm doing music, but, I do get an opportunity to meet a lot of people and really meet more people than most people meet in the course of the week. I'm very thankful, man. I've never been to Canada. I'm going to get my first stamps on my passport going to Canada with Norton next week.
That's going to be awesome for you. An obvious question I haven't yet asked. Being such a guy who is so deep into music and in the truck, give us your playlist. You're going down the road. Let's say you got to run. Let's say you're Georgia based. So let's say you're going. You get one in Atlanta, and you're going to Montana. Real long run. What are you listening to? What's your playlist in the cab?
Oh man, I'm telling you, it's something about this song called "You Can't Hide Love" by Earth, Wind and Fire. That song will make me feel like I just drank a Red Bull. I don't believe in that because I've heard dramatic stories about it speeding people's hearts up and having just guys, ladies, do not be. I know this is improper English, but do not be out there drinking Red Bulls. Don't do that. It's not good. But "You Can't Hide Love" by Earth, Wind and Fire is an amazing song. I mean, I'd like to say that I've listened to a playlist, but sometimes I just fixate on one song and I keep repeating that bad boy because it's so good.
That one's at the front of mind there. Now, I was going to ask you, I think you'd mentioned you've been married a couple of years. Is that right?
Going on 2 right now.
Going on 2. Mm-hmm. And any children?
No, we don't have any children. Not yet. I would like to acquire a home just because I think the hurdle of getting into home ownership via credit score or via whatever, the whole, like, I had a partial scholarship, but the whole, like, having some student loans, it caused a detriment to my credit worthiness in terms of acquiring a home. So that's part of one of the other ways that Norton benefits me in terms of being able to, pay off debt and also build up good credit history. So do look forward to children one day. We're not in a rush or anything like that, but I will say that I do value that portion of life so much so that I'm not sure that at that time that Norton would be, or not even Norton, but just this like style of work would be like the best fit at that time. I might have to pivot into like another type of position with Norton by then.
I got you.
Because I got to be at the basketball games, and presence is a powerful thing. Even if you're not saying anything, you're sleeping in your chair. You know what I mean? Like, the kids remember you being around, and that's a valuable asset to me with children being present.
I got you. Now, are you primarily a singles driver?
Yes, I am. I have thought about doing training to and so on and so forth, but I think with my work ethic, I think I'm killing it even with singles. I think.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You're listening to Patrick Daniels here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Talking a little bit about, he's a singles driver, and you said you were giving it at least a thought going into decking, but singles is working out pretty well for you?
Oh, yeah. It's working out.
Gotcha. Now, what about on the open road? We ask this a lot of the drivers who are on this podcast here. What's the coolest place you've been to, or the one that really just took your breath away, just most majestic?
Great question. I'm actually thinking that it might end up being Canada next week. I'm thinking that's the place that it would be. I told you I did some OTR prior to Norton, so honestly, I haven't been to this place with Norton, but the place would be it would be coming down the Squamish River, entering into Seattle, Washington, and Oregon, and forget the slips my brain, super huge trees. Oh my God. I forget what you call them, but yeah, the West Coast is just it's not even the West Coast. Like, I'm not crazy about the West Coast. For me, it's Washington and Oregon, but I would never want to go there during the wintertime.
Yeah, the Pacific Northwest. That's a common answer among a lot of drivers. A lot of times they say the Pacific Northwest, South Dakota, North Dakota, some of the other answers there. And, of course, it just depends. It varies from driver to driver. We had one on a couple weeks ago. He was more of he was more attracted to cities, skyscrapers, landscapes of the cities, or the picture laid out by the cities there. Now, you talked about not ruling out kids in the future, but you also said you were talking about the presence. So you like to be home, and I'm guessing, I think you kind of touched on it, you like to be home on the weekends so you can do your music and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
How cool is it to have a job where you you can work it out where you are at home on the weekends as long as you get that formula laid out by you and your dispatchers.
I didn't even know it was possible at first. I was about to be working on the first coming weekend on my first week. And all of a sudden, like, I saw one of my loads get canceled. And then I saw, like, a rental car processed to my email. And then I said, oh, I'm going home for the weekend. And I made a lot of money that week. But it's amazing. I mean, I'm taking the week off right now because actually last week, my wife and I personally did the very first rev at Moog Synthesizers. Like, I was in North Carolina for, pretty much 3 or 4 days, just having a blast in Nashville, North Carolina. I mean, with this job, you only have to do one load a month to keep the job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm just going ham out here on the road because I'm buying like a $10,000 synthesizer to start working on movie and film scoring. But if I wanted to, I could drive a week and have enough money to pay all my expenses. I don't have to work 4 weeks out the month.
You've got the nice balance there. I was going to ask you this question on that Moog synthesizer. Sounds like it's pretty top of the line there. If somebody wanted to hear some of the music of Patrick Daniels, is there an outlet where they can see it? Is it online? Have you been published there? I mean, if somebody wanted to take a listen, where would they go?
Just a Bandcamp, bandcamp.com, and type my name in the search. My middle name is Gregory. I have 3 names, 7 letters per name, and my name is Patrick Gregory Daniels. You can type Patrick Gregory Daniels in the search box on bandcamp.com, and it's the most wonderful place where you can distribute music. The largest percentage of money out of all of the streaming distribution companies that exist.
We've talked a lot about your music and your love for music, and how that your vocation behind the wheel helps to fuel your musical love there. How would you compare the two side by side if you had to say scale 1 to 10, I love this much and I love that this much? What would you put on a scale of them and why?
I love making music at a scale of 10, but this is where the issue arises. There's a lot of people that have a lot of time, even like professional artists that have quote unquote made it to a very high level to where they don't have to do another job to leverage in order to do the thing they love. They can just do the thing they love, right? Like, they amass enough exponential orders to where if they put out one thing, the amount that they'll be supported would actually fuel their expenses and a surplus, right? Well, I'm not at that point yet, but I would tell you that there's also a lot of musicians and artists that have that. Their music is not as interesting because what makes music interesting is the fact that you're putting life. Well, imagine how much life I have to put into my music and the fact that I'm going to Canada twice next week. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I would like to say that, while I'm not the biggest fan of being behind the wheel, so many days, that's probably at a 3, I don't necessarily want to be driving. That's like a 3. I don't want to drive, you know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is that the discipline that I have to hold that steering wheel for so long, and an opportunity to take in life. I get a chance to take in more human behavior, more human existence, more just, human maneuvering. I see the way people move and the way people operate, because most people are the same people. They have a pattern. They know they're going to see Jimmy at the receptionist desk. They know that Johnny is this kind of way. They know that Amy is going to talk them to death. So let me just say, hey, how you doing? And let me get on out of there. You know what I mean? Well, I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't have any preconceived notions because everybody's new.
Every day's a surprise.
And imagine how much more interesting it would be to put surprises into the stories, the narratives, the musicianship, the instrumentation. I don't do things. The things I do in my music, they're not going to be predictable. You know what I mean? And so I recognize it as such. So it's like, creating music is a 10, and driving's at a 4. But my life is on tour,
Nice. Nice. I guess if I understand you correctly, you got to have one to have the other.
Yeah, you do. You do. I mean, all the musicians in the world are striving to be on tour, but they have to become popular and meet people in order to be able for those tours to even exist. But I mean, if I wanted to, I could take a piece of musical equipment and during all my breaks, I could do videos in different states and be hashtagging different cities all week long, and people would assume that I'm on tour.
Right. I got you. Now, do you also do vocals, or you just play the synthesizer, or both? Or
Yeah, I do both. I'm trying to double down and do a little bit more focusing on songwritership because that's something that I appreciate a lot. And I've been paying attention to a lot more country music that I'm out on the road. Country music is probably the slowest genre with the most thoughtfulness involved in it. Even though as a child I didn't grow up appreciating it. You're pumping gas, pumping fuel in the middle of a city you've never been in, a rural country, and before you know it, while you're having that patience that you've learned by holding the steering wheel, all of a sudden you're just tapping your foot to, Jimmy was out there with just him in his truck, and his lady loves him because, the only thing that he ever had in his life was him in his truck. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean there. Now, you were talking about trying to build up the songwriting abilities there, and you talked about your life on the road, wherever your transports take you, provides a source of material there. What about sacrifice and struggle? Does that work into? I mean, a lot of great songwriters have been through some things. I mean, if everything's just hunky dory, peachy keen, it would seem to me that it would be hard to write a really good song. But what for you makes a really good song?
Honesty. It's the struggle of the fact that the situation that I'm in right now, doing Driveaway. It'd be wonderful to be able to make this kind of income at home and be able to stay home every day, but I don't. And it is hard and it is tough. And even though it's a great opportunity, great doesn't always mean great. Just because something's great doesn't mean it's great. Sometimes great just means it's the best fit for you. And sometimes the best fit for you isn't the item that you would buy from the mall. Sometimes the best fit for you happens to be just the thing in the closet that you have that'll suffice for the evening, for the meeting, for this particular engagement. And for me, Norton Transport is the outfit that God has blessed me with. I didn't tell you, I found out about Norton Transport because I was driving Uber and I hated it. And I met a lady named Tracy. I forget Tracy's last name. Her last name is C something, but her son actually also drives for Norton. And I hated doing it. I love the people. I love everything about the situation when I'm in the car, but it was just the hardest thing for me to start doing. And so I guess what I'm just trying to say is that, to write a good song, man, it is like what Chick Corea said. It's to write about life, and life is not like perfect. Life is, it is perfect. It's just life isn't something. Life is not a series of events that any person would actually choose. Life is a series of events that you're opportuned with. So, for me, a great song it's just my honesty and my because the things that you honestly and transparently deal with, it can be tough to talk about, man. But they're tough. But in order to write a song about it, you got to be honest and willing to be transparent to talk about it, and tell people, what's really going on,
Well, let's go back to, you were talking about when you were an Uber driver, you met Tracy and her son works for Norton. How did the pieces of that puzzle come together?
I was picking her up from Greyhound. So my assumption is she was deadheading Greyhound, but she lives in Georgia. So I was taking her to her home and she had caught Greyhound from the last drop off and she was about to be home. And, she could just tell that I pride myself on being transparent. It's not even pride really, because in the Bible it says pride comes before the fall. So you don't want to have pride. It's just more about having a confidence and knowing that, I believe that, if we say there's 8-9 billion human beings on the planet, then I think that every single human being we're coming across, or paths that we're crossing, these are divine people. You're not beside this person by accident. And what I think a lot of people might be potentially spinning their wheels in life trying to get what they want out of life. It's just happening because they're not opening their mouths. It's like there's a lot of shame that a grown adult can have about telling another adult, yo, I'm having financial hardships, and like I'm just looking for a more compatible employment opportunity. This thing I'm struggling with, I can't be struggling with it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But like I just previously said, like, just like when I was in the fish dock and I bumped into my artist relations manager's father, just like how I bumped into Tracy driving Uber, you know what I mean? Like, we've got to open our mouths and talk about our life experience with the individuals that are divinely placed around us in life. Every single person that's next to you in life has a puzzle piece to your life. I'm not saying they're going to give you a job or give you anything. They might just give you positive energy when they say hello. It makes you feel better about the fact that you feel like you're stuck in Maryville, Ohio. It might just be a smile. They got coffee in their hand. They just got out of there. They're not offering you a ride from Maryville, Ohio to Chillicothe, Ohio, but what they are offering you is a smile. It can help you be more peaceful while the storm is on the boat, like I talked about earlier. And so it's just taking every single individual or blow of the wind, that can give you a deeper, fresher inhale so that the next exhale you have can make you feel good, and that's, that's just kind of what it's about. Tracy blessed me with an opportunity, and she tells me all the time, like, like this Norton thing is not supposed to be it's not a secret. You know what I mean? It's like, whoever I can help, I'm going to help them. And, hopefully they want to help themselves. And yeah.
You're listening to the inspiring words of Patrick Daniels here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Patrick, we're coming to the end of the road here. And since we want to leave it open to you, what would your advice be to someone who, like, say, is in a similar situation to you, has a passion, and they are able to fulfill that passion with Driveaway? What would you say to them if they wanted to pursue it?
Communicate, communicate with your family, and see if it works, for you all. Be transparent in your communication, talk about everything, there's a thing that I call private relationships. It's when you're relating to yourself and not relating to others. And so right now I got this thought in my head, right? It's that, man, John is really cool to talk to, and I'm glad that we had this opportunity. But guess what? I could have thought that and not said it. And that's the definition of a private relationship. So my unctioning, my encouragement is, for somebody interested in like trying it out, I'd say, man, try it out. You know what I mean? But above that, I would say it's very important for you to talk to your dispatchers or dispatchers about what your goals are and what it is that you'd like to do, and let them know what your personal worries are. My personal worries were like, man, I'm really nervous about getting stuck somewhere. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get stuck anywhere. You know what I mean? Because I don't know what I'd do in that scenario and stuff like that. So if you express those things to your dispatchers, then they can kind of look out for those things. You know what I mean? They can try to not get you in a certain situation. They can try their best. And even if it happens to happen, by virtue of you communicating to them about what you're thinking and what your worries are and who you are as a person and what your struggles are, they can kind of work with you around those things. But I can't see anything that you haven't developed the maturity to communicate about first.
There you have it. Patrick Daniels laying out a very nice roadmap, and we certainly appreciate Patrick Daniels joining us here on the Six Figure Trucker, brought to you by Norton Transport. Patrick, I wanted to close it up by saying be safe, have a great journey, particularly on that keyboard, that synthesizer you have, and also behind the wheel.
Hey, John, I appreciate you too, man. I pray that you continue to be well.
All right. Thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you, John. All the best. Bye for now.
Six Figure Trucker is brought to you by Norton Transport. Norton Transport is a drive-away trucking company that customers can rely on. It offers excellent independent contract driving opportunities to professional, courteous, and qualified drivers that can provide the kind of service we deliver. If you're interested in learning more about Norton or just want to subscribe to the show, check out 6-figuretrucker.com. That's 6-figuretrucker.com.